Ladies and gentlemen, listen closely, because what I'm about to say could change the entire trajectory of your life. You were not born to fit in. You were born to dominate. And until you stop trying to fix everything around you and start fixing the one thing you actually have control over, yourself, you'll keep running in circles, blaming the economy, the people, the timing, the past. But the truth is, the battle was never out there. It's always been within. You can't lead a business, a family, or a vision if you can't lead yourself. You can't change your finances, your relationships, or your future until you change your mindset. You were not born to fit in. You were born to dominate. You were born in... That's not a cute quote for social media. That is the truth of your existence. There's something uniquely powerful inside you, something divine, something intentional. But the tragedy is, most people spend their entire lives shrinking themselves to fit the opinions, judgments, and limitations of others. Instead of rising to the level of their calling, they sink to the comfort of their surrounding. But the call on your life wasn't meant to be comfortable. It was meant to make an impact. You were designed to be a force that shifts atmospheres, that breaks generational curses, that walks into a room and carries purpose like a flame. Every time you point your finger outward, at the economy, your family, your job, your past, you're giving your power away. The battle was never out there. The storm was never the issue. The real war is the one happening inside of you, between the person you are and the person you're called to become. It's an inner conflict that most people never win because they're too busy trying to fix external problems without first fixing internal patterns. Until you confront the excuses, confront the fears, confront the old identity that keeps pulling you back, you will never step fully into the version of yourself that wins consistently and lives boldly. There is a harsh but freeing reality. Nobody's coming to save you. And that's not bad news. It's the best news. Because the moment you stop waiting for permission, validation, or a miracle from someone else, you finally begin the real transformation. You begin to trust your own voice. You begin to rebuild the broken pieces of yourself with wisdom, faith, and discipline. You begin to shift from survival mode to creation mode, where you're no longer reacting to life, but designing it. And that's when things start to change around you. Not because life suddenly got easier, but because you got stronger. You don't attract what you want. You attract who you are. If you're chasing peace while living in chaos, if you're asking for abundance while thinking in scarcity, if you're praying for purpose while clinging to confusion, you're out of alignment. And life cannot bless a version of you that's faking it, doubting it, or hiding from it. You want better relationships? Become a better communicator. You want wealth? Become a steward of what you already have. You want respect? Respect yourself first. Life mirrors the energy, focus, and integrity you show up with. When you evolve, your results will too. There's no secret sauce, no magic shortcut, just principle. Do the work, do it even when it's boring, even when no one's clapping, even when you're tired. Excellence is never accident. It's built in the silence, in the decisions no one sees, the hours no one praises, and the sacrifices no one understands. That's where champions are made, not in front of a crowd, but in the unseen, uncelebrated moments of consistency. And those who win long-term are not the most gifted. They are the most committed, the ones who didn't quit when it was inconvenient. The world teaches you to promote yourself. Shout louder, get more attention. But power doesn't shout, it shows. You don't need to announce your next move. And if you avoid the truth to protect your comfort, that same comfort will eventually become your cage. People often ask for a better life while defending the habits that are destroying it. They want success, but they won't release laziness. They want love, but they won't heal their wounds. They want freedom, but they keep clinging to their chains. What they don't realize is that breakthrough isn't something that falls from the sky. It's something you unlock when you're finally willing to go deep, be honest, and take responsibility for your own evolution. And that evolution is not a one-time event. It's a daily decision to choose growth over comfort, faith over fear, and purpose over excuses. You will never rise higher than your own self-concept. If you see yourself as broken, unworthy, or stuck, you will create a life that matches that identity, no matter how much potential you carry. Identity is the thermostat of your life. You can only go as far as you believe you're allowed. So if you want to change your reality, you have to change how you see yourself. And that means doing the hard work of tearing down lies and building new truths, brick by brick, until your internal world matches the external success you're chasing. You can't build something extraordinary with ordinary patterns. You can't create a life of excellence with habits built around mediocrity. That means you have to say no to the version of yourself that's keeping you stuck. The version that procrastinates, that doubts, that avoids discomfort. And that isn't easy, because that version is familiar. That version is predictable, but it's also the reason why you haven't moved forward. And if you want a future that looks different than your past, you're going to have to choose discipline over distraction, clarity over confusion, and growth over stagnation. This journey isn't about fixing what's broken. It's about revealing what's been buried. The real you isn't lost, just covered. Covered by years of fear, disappointment, and compromise. But once you start doing the work of focusing on yourself, truly focusing, not in a selfish way, but in a sacred way, you begin to uncover the strength that was always there. You begin to remember who you are, not who life told you to be, not who pain shaped you into, but who you were always meant to become. There is a harsh but freeing reality. Nobody's coming to save you. That sentence stings at first, especially when you've been conditioned to believe that help is on the way, that someone will eventually notice your potential, that life will somehow correct itself if you wait long enough. But the longer you wait, the heavier that hope becomes, not because hope is wrong, but because inactive hope turns into quiet despair. When you finally realize that the responsibility for your life is fully yours, it's not a burden, it's liberation. Because now you no longer have to wait for doors to open. You realize you've had the keys in your hand the entire time. You've been taught to believe that help must come from outside. From a job, from a mentor, from a relationship, from some perfect alignment of circumstances. But the truth is, transformation doesn't come when things around you change. It comes when you change, when your mindset shifts from lack to abundance, from fear to faith, from waiting to working. You begin to step into rooms differently. You speak with intention. You stop chasing approval and start living from conviction. The energy changes when you stop seeing yourself as a victim of life and start operating like the author of your future. There's something extraordinary that happens when you take full ownership of your life. You begin to trust your own voice. You stop outsourcing your confidence to the opinions of others. You stop making your peace conditional on circumstances you can't control. You become steady, unshakable, not because life gets easier, it won't. Not because people always understand you, they won't. But because your foundation is no longer built on sand, it's built on self-awareness, self-mastery, and self-belief. And once that becomes solid, no storm can destroy you. When you live from that place of internal power, you stop begging for things that were always meant to be claimed. You don't wait for someone to offer you a chance. You create one. You don't wish for change. You become it. And you don't need every detail to be perfect before you move, because you understand that progress is messy, growth is uncomfortable, and clarity often comes after you take the step, not before. Most people are waiting for confidence to show up before they act, not realizing that confidence is the result of taking action, not the prerequisite for it. This is why the shift has to be internal first, because if you build success on a shaky identity, it won't last. You'll sabotage every opportunity that comes your way because deep down you still believe you're not worthy of it. But when you rebuild your self-image from the ground up, not based on what people have said, not based on your past mistakes, but based on truth, then your success becomes sustainable. You stop self-sabotaging, you stop shrinking, you stop hesitating, and you start walking like someone who belongs in every room they enter. That internal shift doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, slow, often painful, but sacred. It's in the small daily decisions, choosing discipline when distraction is easier, choosing integrity when compromise is tempting, choosing vision when fear is loud. Each of those decisions becomes a vote for the person you're becoming. And eventually, they add up to a transformation so powerful that people won't recognize you. Not because you've changed on the outside, but because your energy, your focus, your presence has become something entirely different. People may not understand your journey. That's okay. They don't need to. This path is not about their approval. It's about your assignment. When you finally take back the power you've given away, you'll notice that things begin to align. Not because life suddenly became fair, but because you're no longer waiting for life to be fair. You're moving, building, speaking, acting, not out of desperation, but out of alignment. And when you operate in alignment, the right people show up, the right doors open, the right opportunities begin to find you. There's a version of you that is powerful beyond measure, focused, disciplined, faithful, and unstoppable. That version of you is not somewhere out there in the future. It's already within you, waiting to be activated. But it can only be accessed when you stop waiting for rescue and start rising into responsibility. When you stop looking for someone else to do the work and start realizing that you are the work. Everything you need has always been inside you, not in someone else's hands, not in tomorrow's chance, but in your decision to rise today. You don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. That truth has the power to either frustrate you or liberate you, depending on how willing you are to take responsibility for your growth. Many people spend years chasing outcomes, setting goals, and writing vision boards, yet wondering why they remain stuck in the same cycles. They think desire alone is enough. But life doesn't respond to what you say you want. It mirrors what you consistently are. If you're not getting what you expect, it's time to look at what you're projecting, what you're believing, and who you're becoming behind closed doors. Wanting a better life while living in contradiction is the great tension that keeps people stagnant. You say you want peace, but you entertain chaos, attain chaos, culprits. You say you want love, but you keep feeding insecurity. You say you want success, but your habits are rooted in procrastination and fear. The world doesn't respond to potential, it responds to preparation. And if who you are doesn't align with what you say you desire, the door won't open. Not because the opportunity isn't real, but because you haven't yet become the person capable of walking through it and sustaining what's on the other side. Change happens when you stop begging life to be easier and start choosing to be stronger. Strength doesn't always look like hustle and grind. Sometimes it looks like stillness, like forgiveness, like choosing discipline over temporary comfort. You build your life from the inside out, and every internal shift creates an external ripple. When you heal, your relationships change. When you think differently, your choices change. When you speak differently, your results change. The world around you reorganizes itself to match the new version of who you're becoming. It's a law. You can't escape it. You will always attract what resonates with your identity. So if life keeps handing you disappointment, it's not because life is against you. It's because something in your belief system is expecting loss. If people keep treating you with disrespect, it may be because deep down you still question your worth. Until you upgrade your internal settings, you'll keep repeating the same external outcomes. This isn't punishment, it's feedback. Life is always reflecting back what you've planted within. The dangerous thing about comfort zones is that they feel safe, but they breed repetition. Repetition of a broken identity leads to cycles that can last for years, even decades. That's why transformation feels so difficult. It requires you to leave behind not just your habits, but the version of yourself that created them. It's uncomfortable, even painful at times. But there's no elevation without separation from the mindsets, the environments, the people, and the behaviors that are holding you hostage in a life you no longer want. There's a point where wanting is no longer enough. You can read every book, attend every seminar, and repeat every affirmation, but until you embody the values you claim to believe in, nothing will shift. Embodiment means your actions, your speech, your posture, your mindset. All of it aligns with the person you say you want to be. That's when transformation becomes real. That's when the gap between your desire and your reality starts to close. Not because you forced it, but because you became magnetic to it. This is not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you to shrink. It's about peeling back the layers of fear, shame, and doubt to rediscover the version of yourself that walks in alignment with purpose. You don't need to fake confidence. You need to build character. You don't need to chase opportunities. You need to prepare yourself so well that the opportunities chase you. And you don't need more validation. You need more authenticity. The shift is internal. Always has been, always will be. The more aligned you become with truth, with discipline, with excellence, the more your world starts to shift without force. Not because everything outside of you changed, but because the source of attraction, you, changed, and that shift is permanent. Because once you've tasted what it feels like to live in alignment, to walk with power, to stop settling, you can never go back to begging life for what you were born to command. There's a quiet kind of suffering that comes from knowing you're made for more, but living like you're less. It's the ache that shows up when you scroll through your own life and realize you've been on repeat. Different days, same story. You've convinced yourself you're waiting for the right time, the right support, the right sign, but deep down, you know the truth. You're just afraid. Afraid to outgrow your circle, afraid to disappoint those who knew you as someone smaller, afraid that success will demand a version of you you've never had to be before. But the truth is, staying the same hurts far more than becoming who you were born to be. You were never designed to fit in with a world that thrives on mediocrity. And yet, every time you downplay your potential to keep others comfortable, you're shrinking your soul to fit a life that was never meant to hold your greatness. Playing small doesn't protect you, it suffocates you. And eventually, the pain of pretending will outweigh the fear of becoming. That's the moment transformation begins. Not when the world gives you permission, but when you give yourself permission to stop apologizing for your ambition, your fire, your voice. Most people are busy trying to fix the fruit when the real issue is the root. They want better results, but they won't examine their beliefs. They want stronger relationships, but won't confront their emotional patterns. They want wealth, but reject the mindset required to build and sustain it. You can't fix what you won't face, and you'll never change your life if you keep avoiding the very thoughts and behaviors that are shaping it. True change doesn't happen by adjusting surface-level habits. It happens when you completely reconstruct the foundation on which those habits are built. When you focus on yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a sacred way, you begin to see clearly. You stop reacting to noise and start responding to purpose. You recognize that you don't have to control everything outside of you when you've mastered what's within you. That's when your energy shifts. You begin walking into rooms with certainty. You speak from alignment, not anxiety. You're no longer moved by trends or opinions because you've learned how to be anchored in your own values. That kind of focus is rare and it's powerful. We live in a world where distraction is the default. There's always something pulling your attention outward, the news, the pressure, the comparison, the noise. But if you keep looking outward for validation, you'll always feel empty. Real power comes from the ability to pause, to sit in silence and face yourself. To ask the hard questions, who am I becoming? What am I avoiding? What do I truly want? Most people avoid these questions because they fear the answers. But the truth will set you free, and often it will offend you first. Somewhere along the way, you may have forgotten that you're not broken. You've just been buried, under expectations, under fear, under years of playing roles that never fit you. The journey back to yourself is not about fixing what's wrong. It's about recovering what's true. That means letting go of identities built around. That means shedding beliefs you inherited but never questioned. That means facing the parts of yourself you've tried to ignore. This kind of healing isn't glamorous. It's gritty, raw, and personal, but it's where real freedom begins. You don't need to do what everyone else is doing. You don't need a perfect plan, 10-step formula, or someone else's approval. What you need is alignment. And alignment comes when your actions finally match your purpose. It comes when you stop compromising with excuses and start partnering with discipline. Alignment doesn't mean ease. It means everything you do serves a greater vision. You wake up with intention. You move with strategy. You rest with peace. That kind of living creates momentum that no outside force can slow down. Everything begins with focus. Focus is not just about attention, it's about direction. It's the ability to say, this is who I am. This is where I'm going, and this is what I'm no longer entertaining. When your focus is clear, your energy is protected. You stop giving time to distractions that drain you. You stop investing in people who don't grow you. You stop explaining your value and start embodying it, because when your mind is focused, your life becomes intentional. And when your life is intentional, your impact becomes inevitable. There's a battle that most people never talk about, the silent war between who you are right now and who you know deep down you're meant to become. It's not loud, it's not dramatic. It happens quietly in the in-between moments. When you're alone with your thoughts, when you're scrolling through someone else's wins, wondering when it'll be your turn, when you promise yourself that the next time you'll start showing up differently. But the truth is, you don't need a next time. You need a decision. One honest decision to stop betraying the future version of yourself for the comfort of your current habits. So many people live their lives reacting instead of creating. They react to pressure, to doubt, to the limitations others have projected onto them. They get stuck in a cycle of trying to prove themselves, trying to be seen, trying to keep up with the pace of a world that never pauses. But the moment you stop trying to catch up and start focusing inward, everything begins to realign. Your focus becomes sharper. Your energy becomes more refined. You stop getting lost in the opinions of people who have no investment in your purpose. That's the power of shifting your attention from outside noise to internal clarity. You can only become what you're willing to believe you are capable of. That's why the mind is the battlefield. Because if you don't master your thoughts will master you. You'll talk yourself out of blessings, delay your own breakthroughs, and stay loyal to old stories that no longer reflect who you are becoming. This is why affirmations, journaling, prayer, meditation, they're not just trendy habits, they're tools for survival. They help you rebuild the inner narrative so you can create new outcomes. You don't rise by accident, you rise by design. And the blueprint starts with your belief system. Most people are not held back by a lack of talent. They're held back by a lack of self-trust. Somewhere along the way, they decided that playing small was safer than being misunderstood. That silence was better than rejection. That delay was better than the risk of failure. But you will never build a powerful life from a place of emotional avoidance. You have to be willing to face discomfort, to sit in the stretch of growth, to endure the awkwardness of not having it all figured out. Because the breakthrough never comes before the breakdown of what no longer serves you. When you focus on yourself, you stop entertaining things that used to distract you. You stop needing permission to pursue your goals. You stop negotiating with mediocrity. Instead, you start creating systems, setting boundaries, and protecting your peace like it's sacred. Because it is. You stop being impressed by noise and start respecting alignment. You don't chase recognition because you understand that the right people will recognize you when you're walking in your lane. And the wrong people losing access to you is not a loss. It's a divine filter working in your favor. There's something magnetic about someone who is locked into their purpose. They don't have to be loud. They don't have to beg for attention. Their life speaks. Their energy commands respect. And it's not because they're perfect. It's because they've committed. They've chosen to become so focused on growth, so intentional about healing, and so disciplined in their habits that elevation becomes a byproduct. This kind of person doesn't wait for momentum. They become momentum. And the people around them either rise with them or fall away. That's how powerful alignment really is. You will be misunderstood. You will be doubted. You will be tested. But when your eyes are on your assignment, none of that matters because you're no longer here to impress. You're here to impact. And impact starts with integrity. It starts with living a life behind the scenes that matches the message you want to give the world. It starts with choosing consistency when excitement fades. And most importantly, it starts with understanding that the path to greatness is paved with moments where you wanted to quit, but didn't. The hardest part is not starting. It's continuing when no one is clapping, when progress is slow, when you question if it's all worth it. That's where most people stop. That's where most people settle. But if you can stay locked in, not emotionally, not temporarily, but fully, soul deep committed, you will witness what happens when a person refuses to fold under pressure. You will discover that the reward isn't just what you get, it's who you become in the process. And that version of you is what changes everything.